In this video, I'm going to show you how I took one free webinar and turned it into $88,000 in sales and counting with something called a category of one framework. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do it as well. Now, if you are not currently using presentations, whether it's a free webinar or a live that you're doing on LinkedIn or actually on a stage, if you're not using any of those to grow your business, you're leaving so much money on the table. And hey, if you're new to my channel, my name's James, and over the last 15 years, I have built a leadership consulting firm for Fortune 500 companies. And at least 80% of all of my clients have come from me doing presentations. So again, I'm going to show you one of my favorite frameworks that I developed that I use, and you're going to be able to use it too by the end of this video. So let me go to some slides here. And let me first just walk you through this webinar. This webinar, I was invited to come and speak, but I could not sell anything, right? So for many of you, you're going to give a presentation, but you're not allowed to sell anything at the end, or it would just be too soon, too rushed, too early. But that doesn't mean that you can't get leads, qualified leads, which then you're able to sell. And so that was the case in this. Actually, this presentation, it was to a small group of corporate trainers. All right. Now, I'll walk you through what I did. So basically what happens is we do something called a marketing argument. And in the category of one framework, so imagine you're going to do a short presentation, but it's going to start education-based. Right? So it's going to start education-based, and it's usually on some kind of how-to or potentially a pain point that they're experiencing, right? So you're going to do some education here. Well, in that education, what happens is you end up selling them. This is the place where you do sell them. You sell them on the actual problem that is getting in the way of them getting what they want. Now, nothing new so far, right? Like, of course, you're going to tell people what the problem is. But one of the keys here is you're trying to help them understand a problem that maybe they haven't quite seen it in that way before. And I'll show you how I did this in a moment. But then what you want to do is, of course, you're going to talk about the solution to that problem. So again, nothing earth-shattering here, right? And this is going to be a solution or possible multiple solutions that many of your competitors would also be telling them, right? So you might be talking about, let's say you run a weight loss company, and then you're going to be talking about the solution, diet, exercise, all the same things that everyone else says. Now, here's where the framework gets really powerful, because what you're going to do is you're going to introduce a new problem, and the new problem is about the solution. So regardless of how many solutions you give them, what you're going to tell them is the problem with the solution, right? This is the problem of this solution. And then, of course, they're going to be like, oh, okay, what now? And then this is where you're going to introduce a new solution, but the new solution is based on two things. One of them is your signature process, right? So one of them is your signature process. I'll explain that in a moment. And the other one is your unique mechanism. Now, sometimes those could be the same, but a lot of times they're going to be different. So what do I mean? Signature process, unique mechanism. So your signature process, of course, is your way of how you fix the client's problem, right? Or how you deliver the desired outcome for them. There's a process you take people through. Now, maybe your process is very unique, or maybe it's not that unique. It's just like everyone else's process. And this is where you need the unique mechanism. The unique mechanism is something that is unique to you, that only you have, that in a sense is the secret. It's the secret sauce to all of this. So let me walk you through from an example perspective. So I was speaking to this group of corporate trainers, and what I was talking about was, in a sense, retention techniques in training. Now, again, I don't sell programs for corporate trainers. I sell programs to help a company train their leaders. But here I am speaking to people who are corporate trainers. And so I'm talking to them about retention, about training. Basically, I'm saying, here's what I've learned over, 15 years of training people. And of course, in that, I start talking about the problem. And the problem I mentioned was actually time, right? That, hey, here's the big problem. Your manager's so busy that you give them all this training, it's just not going to stick, right? So, and again, here's the solution is people think, okay, you got to train my people, but there's a problem with that. And the problem has to do with retention. So you spend all this time, energy, effort training your people, and then they just forget it 2 weeks later. And so this is where I'm going to introduce my signature process and my unique mechanism. Now, in that setting, I wasn't trying to sell them a product because I couldn't. It wouldn't have been appropriate, right? But of course, I was telling them about this program that I have, our main signature program that we've trained, thousands and thousands of leaders around the world. It's called 9 Minutes on Monday. But I'm not selling that, and I'm not even selling features or benefits or anything like that. What I'm doing is I walk them through my signature process. So this was part of the presentation. And our signature process, we, in a sense, have these 3 buckets for this, right? Number one is, I got to get my picture out of the way there. Number one was we tell them, look, the first thing we do is change how people think about the subject. And if you don't get that buy-in, it doesn't matter how much training you're going to layer in there, it's just not going to stick, right? So the first part of the presentation is just proving that point. Then the second part is this. Now we equip them with something called the engagement drivers. So again, I'm not going to walk you through the whole presentation. And then we have this process for hardwiring and behavior change. So that's our process. But our unique mechanism is this, right? The 9 engagement drivers. Now this is mine. I developed this. I've been doing this for, years. It goes back to probably 2010 when I first came up with this. If you Google the 9 engagement drivers, you're going to see a picture like this. It's probably going to be connected to my name. And what I'm doing, though, is basically saying that this unique mechanism, this is the secret, right? This is the secret to making all this happen. And then what I'm not doing is I'm not selling a product. I'm not even selling how we do it, the process, though that's a little bit in there, but I'm pitching this. This is the key. This combined with this ritual that we have for people, this is the key, getting training to stick. Okay? And then I layer in on top of that, this is what happens when you apply these principles. So again, I'm not selling me, I'm just saying principles. Here's some of the feedback from people. And then what does this do? This creates such an intrigue, such a desire that then trainers came out of this saying, hey, I would like to talk. Hey, could you come into my company? And one thing led to another. And now $88,000 in sales later and counting just from that one presentation. Okay, so let me give you another example. And let's say you're a recruiter and you run a recruiting company and you get a chance to give a presentation, or whether it's you got invited to do one, or whether you're going to organize one yourself, maybe a LinkedIn Live, and you invite a bunch of people to. And let's say it's how to find talent in 2025. And so you start this educational process. And what are you doing? You're going to sell them on what the real problem is. And so I don't run a recruiting agency. So if you run a recruiting agency, forgive me if this isn't correct, but just go with it. It's just an example. So let's say the problem I'm helping them see is that the best candidates, right? The best candidates for the jobs are not looking because they're already happily employed. And so, of course, what's the solution? Is to go after, right? Is to recruit people who are already hired and working. But what's the problem with that? So here's where we want to find what's the problem with that. Now, it could be the problem is that people don't get back to us, or they tell us they're happy, or they tell us other recruiters are doing the same thing. And so these people are bombarded with recruiters. And so here's the problem of the solution. And so then this is where you're going to bring in your signature process and your unique mechanism. Maybe it's the way you use AI to organize something, or maybe it's the way that you host these events and a certain kind of topic that you do with these people that ends up getting them interested in working with your recruiting firm so that you have the best people. I don't know, whatever it is. But it's down here, and this is what makes you a category of one. Because as people start to understand your process, they've got to get it. It's got to be logical, and it's got to be also resonate emotionally. And again, this video is not long enough to cover all those things, but I'm just giving you the high level of the framework. And then you're going to do the same thing, right? You're going to layer in some social proof on top of that of your category of one. And then you can invite people, right, to have a conversation with you if they would like to learn more. So again, it's one of the most powerful funnels that I will use in terms of getting leads. And like I said at the beginning of this video, 80% of all the money I have made in the last decade, more than a decade, has come from me doing presentations and then turning those leads into clients. And it's just, there's a way to do it. So this category of one framework, that will work for you. Now, if you would like a cheat sheet, I made a cheat sheet for you, and it's a worksheet actually, and you can download it. And basically, it's just going to take you through some prompts, and you're going to answer those, and it will help you put in these big pieces so that you could also create a category of one funnel in a sense. Now, again, you're not asking for somebody's credit card at the end of this. What you're asking for is for them to take the next step with you, whatever that means. So let me just go back here to my slides, and just in review, let's recap. Basically, what we're doing is we are getting a chance to do some educating, right? And so we're educating on some kind of how-to, like I was to those trainers. Here's how to train people in your organization so that it sticks longer. It wasn't even a leadership presentation, but I still brought it down to where they wanted to work with me, right? So you're doing some education, you're selling them on what the problem is, what the real problem is. But then what's the problem with that? Then there's a solution. And then what's the problem with that solution though? Because now this is we're the only ones that can solve that problem. And here's how we do it. So that's the framework. Go ahead and use it, and download that cheat sheet. It's going to help you put all that together. And hey, if you like what you see here, please come back. Make sure you subscribe. But the last thing I'm going to say, if you're not using presentations to create leads and create sales, again, you're leaving so much money on the table. Make sure you get out there and make it happen. And you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish with just one single presentation.